Hello, and welcome to the City State Entertainment Camelot Unchained weekly update stream starring Ash and Andrew. Yes, we are coming to you straight from Seattle this week because I'm in Seattle.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Seattle. It's grim. It's rainy. Everything you could hope for.
It is. It is less rainy than DC.
It's true.
DC has been like this horrifying, oh, look, another hurricane all year.
Yeah, we don't get much hurricanes here.
I taunt them. I taunt you. Oh, yeah, you're the rain. No. Yeah. So, as you can see, Ash continues to have absolutely no fashion sense of his own.
None whatsoever.
None.
I keep saying, Andrew is my spirit animal. What people don't understand is that means I eventually need to emulate him and then get like a very life realistic Andrew mask and like wear that around. It'll be great.
The hiring process was actually Ash went off in the desert and smoked several cacti, and then I sort of appeared to him and told him to
Go north.
Yeah.
Quit your life, quit your job, come to Seattle, be a producer, and, maybe don't eat that cactus anymore.
On that note, so let's talk about the top 10. This week has been an infrastructure week. It's been a week where we've been spending a lot of our time working on our tech debt, getting things prepped for all the big features that we're rolling out. That's a lot of work. None of these are particularly small, so they're all ongoing tasks. First one is Coherent. We've got the core update loop for the HUD in place, and it looks like we're working along towards getting the basic input structure into the UI. So that's pretty fantastic. Matt and JB have been doing a lot of great work, but a special call out, we got a lot of help from the mod squad, particularly Sadie has been fantastic. We got so many check-ins. It was really, really great, and we just want to give a special call out to that in regards to Coherent and the UI integration.
Yes. So number 2 is the ongoing work on sort of refining the ability builder, and that is Rob and Caleb doing a lot of things on that, and that's there's sort of 2 phases to that. First of all is just refining the workflow. I mentioned last week, we came through beta and we said, okay, this many skill parts times this many classes times this many hours for Ben to script each skill part is okay. That's not gonna make our ship date, and so we're trying really hard to accelerate the workflow with just streamlining the process, and that's coming along well. There's also kind of this interesting thing about it of saying, okay, so if we're going to streamline this process, how can we like generalize the process of scripting stuff happens and it interacts with other stuff happening to inject things, and we are working towards sort of this like the scripting and trigger system for the depths with the same code as the skills. So that's sort of we're taking this path to kind of build out that tooling as well.
Definitely, and it's going to give us all of that sort of foundational technology. So when we go in to do like the magic combination stuff, we've got that kind of that core loop already in place, and we don't have to reinvent the wheel or worry about it because we've built the technology, knowing where we're going in the distant future of the someday.
So what do you think? Is it cooler than Blueprint?
I think it has the potential to be. Admittedly, I have a lot of experience with Unreal and Crytek, obviously, and I like Blueprint a lot, but at the same time, the things that I like about Blueprint are the things that would drive me nuts with trying to do this system. Like the problem with Blueprint is it's basically you can kind of script anything you really want, but with this, it's a little bit, there's some more rules to it, a little bit more structure. It's kind of more well defined.
Yeah, I mean, Blueprint can do anything. So Blueprint is the Unreal system, and there's also the Unity mono behavior system, which we won't talk about that. But it's how it's all coming together. I think this is the next generation of game scripting, but we're just going to make skills with it. So there is the stopping point. When do you stop? And we are at the getting the prototype phase together.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and really, what sets our stuff apart, especially comparing it to something like Blueprint, is the fact that we have networked it and we have the network prediction part in there and our networking aspects to it is radically, crazily different from how like Unreal or anybody else that I've seen who does anything like this works. So I don't know. I think it's very
It's a different game.
It is totally.
Different set of trade-offs.
Speaking of stuff for skills, Christina has been working on the player stats, and this is just kind of getting them to fall in line with the work we've been doing for skills to get everything sort of following the same language, following the same schema, getting them more optimized for the network.
So I'll just, small story, things that we do to just push forward, all right, like get a feature out now. So every time that we do, all right, this guy's going to swing a sword. All right, well, what is his movement speed? Because that modifies, how long it takes to get the swing through. So we get that, and to calculate that, we calculate his movement speed. And to calculate his movement speed, we calculate his strength, and we calculate his encumbrance. And so, it's just like every time there was like all this sort of floating overhead, and it totally worked, but it was a lot of load on the server.
It was a little slow.
Calculate your encumbrance means add up all the weights of everything in your inventory, and there's not like caching at these levels.
Yeah.
So, I'd say the main thing that's going on with the stat system is just, just having, okay, here is the last value we used, figure out which things will invalidate, which, a change to this will invalidate this, this, and this, and recalculate just those. So
it's been fantastic. Oh, hey, there's a special note here. According to this, we have cut the time spent calculating these values by 83%. There's a hard number for you guys. Hard numbers. That's what we're about here.
Okay, so you have to put that in context where 83% is we were spending in a heavily loaded test, bring in 500 players or something. We were spending up to 50% of the server time flowing through that tree to, every time someone swings a sword, we add up the weights of all the items in their inventory. And like I said, it worked, and we just had to get stuff showing quickly. But yeah, so the thing that was 50% of the server's CPU is reduced by 83%. So this is real good stuff for scalability.
It is very good stuff.
And that's the kind of thing we talked about of tech debt that we allowed ourselves to incur in order to put the best beta forward, and now we're now we are paying that tech debt back.
Right, and that's going to see a lot of improvements. It's going to be good.
Yeah. So next on the item, Colin's still working on the building server of pulling the buildings out to run on their own server separately from the main game loop, and that's just another thing to when a big building event occurs, and they don't occur on all the buildings all the time, that's like this sudden spike in CPU load. And we want to get that out of the main game loop over onto a separate box. And he's been doing all the networking on that, and I've been doing a whole bunch of I've been doing a bunch of work to kind of get things to support that under the hood. There's sort of this common set of things we want to do to structure code in a way that facilitates big chunky rubble falling off buildings and that. So I've been working on that to hand off to Colin. And I think I just found my last bug.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The hell is C++ CLI. It's this horrible abomination that, Microsoft, there's C#, which is a great language, and there's C++, which is a better language if, you're awesome.
It is a more robust language, we could say.
No. You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means.
I'm trying not to, pick any fights with anybody in the community who might be like, oh, what are you dishing on C++? C++ is the best. It makes my children happy. I don't want to have that fight again. It's a losing battle. All right, so next.
Yeah, but anyway, what I was just saying is there's this other language that's it looks like C++, but it compiles into .NET C# managed code, and it's sort of the glue that glues the gameplay server into the buildings code. And I spent 2 days tracking down one bug with a static initializer in C#, which causes a static initializer in C++ to be invoked before the C++ static initializer should run. It's just hell, and that's the other reason we want to have a separate business or building server, because that way we will just have all the C++ in one process, all the C# in another process, there will be no more of this. But,
yeah, they can live separately, have their own memory, not play together.
And so the C++ CLI is just like, having one last thrashing fit where it just, as I'm dragging it out of the bar like a bouncer, it just,
No, I need to be in there!
Grabs a beer bottle and tries to swing it at me. Just, no, you're out. You're out. Out.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Where were we? Number 5, Mongo database upgrades. So this has been ongoing. I think we're getting very near the end of it, though. Bowling Christina and Tim have been working on getting the Mongo version that we have on our database updated, upgrading all of our server databases, and getting all that to, I think, the latest version. I think we're going to 4.1, right?
4.0.1.
4.0.1, thank you.
Pro tip, never use any MongoDB release that ends in .o.
We love Mongo and they're great.
Yes, especially at the something.something.1 version.
But they're better with iteration. So with all of that, there's still a little bit more work to do to finish up all the systems and get all the new APIs in place. But that's going along swimmingly, and that's great to have that finally updated because that gives us a lot of stuff for the item interactions and the item transfer stuff, which we kind of needed to do. So now we have that capability in our database, and it's great.
Transactions.
Transactions, that's what I was looking for.
Yes.
Transactions.
Kind of thing of, I take the item away from me and I give the item, or I take an item and send it from me to you. You take an item and send it from you to me. And those both either, both of those database operations need to happen or neither of them needs to happen.
There you go.
We can't have one of them succeed and one of them fail. And we'd been doing some fancy glue to implement that ourselves, and now it just works.
Now it just works.
Yay. So, number 6.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, have we announced this guy yet?
I don't think
have
so.
we actually told it? Yeah.
No, I don't think. I think we've hinted at his existence.
Yeah.
Like a vague shadow. You know,
I already put the thing in
we talked around him.
Well, I think he's working out. We can say his name.
All right.
So Wiley has been hooking up building effects where as things get knocked off of buildings, we just produce puffs of stone or puffs of smoke or shards of wood, or in exactly the right places. It's one of those things where the client is, you have all the information you need to do this, from here's the old building and here's the new building and here's the rubble that fell off the building and where did things break and all of that kind of stuff. And but it took some work to actually do it right, because the buildings are complicated.
They are.
I mean, they're super fast, but it takes some work. And I was really impressed with this first code review. I'll just say.
Yeah,
he came in with something really clever. But Wiley's juniorish, so
yeah. I
mean, it's always awesome when you see new people, come in and start excelling. So
it's been great. He really hit the ground running. We hired him on as a junior, but he's been doing really fantastic work so far. I think everyone agrees. Does anyone disagree? I don't see anybody dissenting because they're smart. Wiley's over there disagreeing, so it's good to know. He's got some humility. That's positive. Yeah. All right.
The entire office is right behind this whiteboard.
Yeah, we've kind of got this set up for the stream, right in the middle of the space in Kirkland, and we've been kind of trying to evaluate the best position to have this kind of space set up, and there's really just there's no good
place. There's no good place in this office.
So we're just kind of in the middle of
literally one room. There's no unused corner like in Fairfax. So.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. It's a little cozy, a little nice. We're making sure that everyone's work is not disrupted at all by us sitting in the middle of the room.
Yeah, we made Joe stop eating his chips.
Yeah. He's pretty salty about it. He's pretty salty about his chips.
Yeah. Chips weren't salty. It was very disappointing.
I know. And they actually said they liked those barbecue chips, and they're really not good.
No, it's.
We won't name any brands here, but we got these Korean barbecue chips, and they're really bad.
Okay, so where I'm from, it's Utz crab chips or nothing.
Right. That's fair. That is fair. Number 7, the BC7 texture compression. This is pretty much a binary thing, but we added support for different texture compression methods for our materials. it'll make things look better, particularly around some of the white space stuff and some of the blending off of highlights. But it is what it is.
I mean, it's just like you zoom in on characters and some of the textures won't be as chunky. And this is partly like, oh yeah, that's a nice thing, and partly, I mentioned we had grown out the tools team, and this is one of those things of like, here's a nice self-contained block of work that as you go through this, you're going to see all the parts of our entire build pipeline as you push this one simple self-contained change through it. And that's the reason that's happening now, to help ramp up new people.
And I think that one of the things that people need to remember, especially with game development, is every time you onboard someone, you have to teach them a whole new code base. And so what you want to do is give them those self-contained atomic pieces of work that can touch a bunch of things, right, but are relatively straightforward and relatively direct in what the goal that they need to accomplish is, so they can learn a lot about the system. And then that's where you get some of these little things from. That's where pretty much every place I've ever worked, we start off with these little self-contained tasks, and we get all these little gimmies, right? And they make everything better. They're fit and finished. They're absolutely fit and finished, but it's a great way to get new people involved.
Yeah, and also, like, as part of that with, those kinds of tasks, it's like there's someone who started recently, and like his first code review, I was like, basically marked up every single line with red and said, no, that's not how we do it. And then, second time it came back, it's like, okay, half as much red. And there's a lot of just like sort of unspoken company culture style. I mean, there's this massive page on the wiki of coding standards. And every time like we onboard a new person, I'm like, oh yeah, these are the things that, those like unstated cultural conventions, like, oh, yeah, this person didn't do that, and we all do that, so I'm going to add that to the coding standards, too. It's this evolving, living document on,
It always is. But
how to make me not scream at you.
I was going to say...
Pro tip, don't be C++ CLI.
I was going to try and be diplomatic and say, we want to have like a consistent format to our code and have some readability and some self-documentation there that's consistent. But yeah, no, I mean, just basically just is about not getting yelled at. So there's that.
I don't actually yell at people.
He doesn't. He's nice. He's actually pretty mellow. I'm the one who yells at people. I'm pretty much a dick.
I'm very disappointed in you.
Oh wait, you get the next one. It's art.
The blood god needs your blood now. Calmly with the knife.
You've got to be very, very collected, very, very mature. You have to speak clearly when you say, "Now you must bleed for the blood god."
I'm making you do the next one. I can't follow that.
All right. So the art team, work in progress. There's the thing that you guys have been hearing about, Characters 2.0, and it's just us getting our characters looking a lot better and getting prepped to have all the different races and all that jazz. And part of that has been improvements to the UV sheet. We've updated the UV sheet slightly, giving us a little bit better texture usage and a little bit better space usage on the textures. We kind of covered this.
There's more room for skulls for the skull throne.
Exactly, right? Yeah. And it's important to have as many skulls in the skull throne as possible, because obviously the blood god is not going to sit on a skull throne that's like 3 skulls on like a little wicker chair. Who would do that? Like,
did you ever play Warhammer Online?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay, so I mean, this is actually kind of directly follows from that, because we had pretty much the same character texture, atlasing, and layout system there, because I only have so many good ideas, and until someone shows me a better way, I'll keep using the same idea that worked in the past. And so for Warhammer, we had to lay out like special reserved space on your character UV sheet, so that when you took a skull and mounted it on your shoulder as a pauldron, there was room for skulls for the skull throne in your character UV layout.
And it's important. And I think that skulls, it's a primary piece of the texture technology. So speaking of textures, they created a new nude texture for the male and female humans according to this new UV layout. I guess it has underwear, so it's probably a good thing. We probably don't want a mature rating for this quite yet.
Actually, what we do is we make it like totally nude, but like in a just Barbie Ken doll kind of thing with no junk, and then we decal on your underwear. As like the first step for most things, but then depending on like what you're doing, if there's something that's got like a weird cut on like the hip line or something, we might leave off the underwear because we rely on that, and we don't want to like add visible underwear.
Yeah, that would
sticking out the top, or
that'd be awkward. I don't want to be like flashing my whale tail around every place as I'm running around killing up some elves.
So it's like, when you take off all your clothes, we just add underwear, but then it's just sort of like Barbie finish underneath.
There you go. There you go.
When you have other pants on.
Yeah, this is not the Conan game where you're just in the wind.
Yeah. Who wants to play Rust?
That was actually my biggest barrier for entry. It's such a cool looking game. Like, get in there.
How big was your barrier?
Oh, that's what she said. I think we broke George over there. That's good. Good sense.
It's like we're so jammed up on people, you can hear the peanut gallery laughing at us here.
All right, number 9, art, animation 2.0. So part of the character 2.0 stuff has been getting the characters, UV modeling, all of that, maybe some of the rig stuff, getting all that updated, which is great. But we've also got some updates to the animation system, and this is due to some work that he has done, giving us some better blading and giving us some not blending, excuse me, blading, some better curving in and out of the animations, which Tyler has already discussed.
Now, Tim's the blader. He's into his rollerblades.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I knew I had a motorcycle, but I didn't.
No, he was like going around. Early on in City State, he was like going around the office on the carpet in his rollerblades.
Please.
Yeah.
Tim. Dude.
Yeah.
What?
Exactly.
I can't. Anyway, we got some sword and shield.
Yeah, remember that. Just like imagine Tim sailing around the office on rollerblades the next time you see him on stream.
Oh, God, he's gonna... Anyway.
It was like Roller Girl, but hot.
What were we talking about?
Halberds.
Halberds and spears and documentation. Yes, this is a very exciting and sexy part of what we're doing. Documentation. We're writing everything that we're doing down and how to do it. Yeah. That's the best part. I guess that's just the producer talking. Nobody else agrees? Nobody?
Yeah. So I'll take the next one. Trees. Dion's been doing ongoing work, better, happier trees. She made some happy accidents and then embraced them and made them beautiful accidents. Yeah,
I don't have enough fro to do that.
Hold on.
Uh-oh. Okay. All right, here we go. There we go. I'm going to paint a little happy tree up on this mountainside. It'll be great. Yeah, I think we just broke out the studio there. That was pretty good. They're getting a lot of work done, guys. A lot of work. Very productive.
Yeah. I'm going to turn the stream off. I'm going to crack the whip.
Last one. Crafting UI. So as you guys heard, we were updating Crafting UI. We've got a slightly more controlled API in place, and so we're building the UI around that. So Michelle, James, and JB have all been looking at getting the updated UI and styling into place, which has been great. AJ has been doing a lot of work on the back end to actually hook all of the styling up to the API that Christina has provided. And so that is going on in his branch presently, and we should see that soon.
Yes. Soon. So I think that's the list.
I think that's it. I think that's everything. I think it's question time, Brian.
So before we go, just in general, on the list, not on the list, what is the thing that you are most excited about from this week?
From this week, it sounds kind of boring, but I'm actually really excited to see that we've got a lot of our planning done around the VFX and kind of how we want to approach doing sort of the effects work for the new event system and all of that jazz, because that is one of the things that makes a game. It's those little visual elements, and it's like that and like sound effects, and people forget it. I mean, you ask, I've hired a lot of video game people in my life, and you ask them to point out what's missing in a game scene. Like when I was hiring testers back in the day, we'd give them a clip and be like, so what's missing here? And they would never get it. That it was visual effects that were missing, right? There wasn't any sparkles around something, or there wasn't a sound effect, and they'd be like, "Something's not right. I just don't know what it is." So I'm excited that we've made a lot of progress on it.
Yeah.
How about yourself?
I am really excited for kind of the new scripting flow.
Yeah, that's going to be really cool.
You know, I am enthusiastic.
Yeah, well, of course you would be. You're like the core engineering guy because, you know, you're the core engineering guy. So, of course you're going to be excited about that.
Like, I'm excited about, like, the ability to make the world more interactive.
That's going to be fun.
Like, the ways that the skill system can trigger other things that aren't even skills.
So what you're saying is I need to get and make a skull throne item. I need to get the texture space for it set up, and I need to get it in the world so that you can sit on the skull throne. Is that what I'm hearing? I feel like that's what I'm hearing.
Hey, you know, you got my boots, you got my hoodie, you got my beard. You don't get to get my chair. He's got my belt too.
Yeah, I've got his belt. I don't know if you guys can see it, but we've got the same belt.
Yeah, I'm not wearing that belt today.
Are you about a size 4?
But the really absurd thing about it is there's only like one place that makes that belt, and it was like they only made them for like a year, and they were like selling in like Ross, like so. It's not like this is a particularly common item that like everyone you could get from like Macy's.
I bought mine on the internet.
Right,
like,
right. But you know, then there's the hoodie.
Yeah.
There's that.
Yeah. What'd you do on Skyrim?
I played it a bunch. I made some really sweet mods. I made one where you could advance the vampire perk tree until you got to the very, very end of the vampire lord perk tree, and then you get all the vampire lord powers when you were done with that in your normal character state because the transformation was kind of done. Made a mod that did that. Let's see, what other mods did I make for Skyrim? I did some weapon mods. Nothing too terribly exciting. I was really proud of the vampire one. It was a lot of scripting. No. And the creation engine is painful to work with sometimes. It is.
I hope to give you that pain.
I feel like this is some sort of horrible kismet, like some sort of karmic justice.
No, Kismet was a prior Unreal script.
Yeah, that was the previous. that was Unreal 3. Oh my goodness! All right.
So let's let people ask us questions.
So the very first question comes from Loudoween. That question is the matching attire the reason the stream is coming from Seattle today, or is that backwards?
I think it's backwards. I think Ash knew that we were going to be on a stream together and dressed like me on purpose.
That is not. It's cold here.
And look at these boots.
I needed it.
Oh, you gotta get them up.
Yeah. I can't. I'm not a rockette.
No, I just grabbed the first hoodie that was by my door. It just happened to be the Skyrim hoodie that he also has. I haven't seen anybody else with one of these. So, yes, there's that. It was not intentional. It's not intentional. Thank you for noticing, though.
All right, so Odelvik asks on behalf of, and I'm going to mispronounce his name, Korabane. The Mod Squad and the Builders Brigade have been a great way for us to help CSE so far. What about doing something similar for tools? Are there small and low-risk / urgency tools that we could help with?
There's not a lot that's not like super integrated into our building pipeline. Our build pipeline. It's all kind of like this end-to-end thing where it's not like you can drop in and work on a UI element or something like that. So unfortunately, no. But that's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually something to really give some consideration to. I mean, specifically with how our web API works, there may be some more room there for like character information or utilities that can make calls to that in the future. So it's something to think about. But presently, I can't think of anything that would be something that could be carved out to external that wouldn't be like deeply ingrained in the guts and blood and mire of the build and editor.
Yeah. There are interesting ideas that this gives me, but nothing to talk about today.
No. Something to noodle on, though. It'll definitely give some noodles.
Odelvik asks, you're adding up all the equipment weights every time the character did something. Why don't characters have an array of calculated stats at logon and only update when some action triggers an action?
Yes, that is exactly the work that Christine is doing right now.
So we've set it up now so that it caches a little bit more intelligent. We cache off a value, and then we have specific events that call to recalculate that value, and we only worry about those moments of recalculation.
Like, the reason we were doing that full recalc every time is that being 100% sure about when you do and do not need to invalidate things is it's a subtle thing where you miss something and then this changed, but it didn't change all the stats that are derived from it. So getting that exactly 100% robust every time was sort of why we had kicked that down the road until we could do it perfectly.
Right. And we needed the time to have some really strong understanding about what we were going to do with some of the other pieces too. So it was a great way for us to get it in there, test it, make sure it was all functional, make sure that our math was not stupid, that our ideas worked and played and could actually be a part of the game. Now we have room to improve.
Yeah. Christina does things perfectly.
Yeah, she does. I love her code reviews. Like, they're just so well organized. I can walk through and I'm like, I understand what's happening here. As opposed to some people like Matt.
I have my own review pattern. Toss me that knife.
Alright, so Lottoin asks, which will come first? Beardless Andrew or round buildings in Q/CU?
See, I've been holding it for the rubble. There's this one, I just want the big chunky Battle of Pelennor Fields, Two Towers. I love those movies. I want those, and so that was kind of the thing that was like, until I see that, I keep going. At this point, my wife is into it though.
See, that's the real clincher right there.
I mean, it's been going so long that she's just like, yeah, that's what my husband looks like. If you had no beard, you'd look like a little boy or something. So, I want to pet that. I can't turn that So now, I'm trapped.
It's true. It's true. As soon as the significant other gets used to it, it's not my fiance. I threatened to shave because we have a family event that we're going to this weekend. I threatened to shave, be clean shaven because I thought it'd be more respectful. It's just deadpan. She was like, "I will leave you. We will be done." I was like, "Okie dokie, that's not happening."
Yeah. So file the marriage license, then shave.
Yeah. Right.
Same day.
Just bam. They're like, hey, no, you can't. It's on paper. That's a contract. You signed it.
All right. So Antediluvian 1001 asks, how many of the races currently have 3D models?
That is a question for, I think, Tyler and John, and we could ask Joe, but I don't want to distract him from his work at the moment. I don't know off the top of my head. I mean, besides the ones that are currently in the game, I don't know. I think we have some legacy ones, but I can't speak to that. I don't know what our art backlog looks like presently.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm just I trust you guys. Here are the slots. You upload models into each of these slots, and I am going to trust Tyler to get his job done. So, Unfortunately, you got the wrong two people to answer that question today.
Odovic asks, did Andrew pack a bottle of whiskey for a Friday night Seattle tasting session?
Son of a bitch, there was a threat of you bringing whiskey?
I'm out of here. I'm going back straight from here, so.
See, he has whiskey and he abandons us. That monster.
No, I don't have whiskey, that's why I'm abandoning you. So my wife also works for a company that lives on both coasts, so she flies around, and so I'm routing my flight home through the Bay Area, and then shoot to get on. So my second cross country leg from San Francisco back here is we'll pick her up along the way. It's just the joys of traveling for. Both of us traveling for work, so it's
hey,
we'll both be on a plane together. We'll get to see each other.
It's better than nothing, man. It's better than nothing.
Walsh asks, any updates on the 64-bit client?
So the Coherent work is getting really, really close to done, and as soon as that is all done, checked in, and tested, we can pretty much immediately start rolling into doing the 64-bit conversion. He has promised me that it is relatively straightforward, and so I am believing him because he has made this promise. But that's going to be the sort of the next step immediately after Coherent is in the place that we're comfortable with it, and we don't see any risk doing conversion after that.
As soon as we've stopped the work on Coherent and it's in testing, then we'll just roll forward with the 64-bit client. If you're willing, we could do 64-bit client right now if we didn't want a UI.
Right. And if you guys want to play the game with no UI and almost no input whatsoever,
it's immersive mode.
We can totally, exactly,
it's
right?
Immersive mode.
Totally in immersive mode. We can totally do 64-bit client then.
Immerse yourself in 64-bit clientness.
All the bits, 64 whole of them.
Yeah, just
hey, that's a lot
feel
of memory
them
space,
washing
though,
over you.
right? Yeah. Gotta play it on like 8 screens though, like all around you.
Necron asks, will you abandon the 32-bit client after the 64-bit client is ready, or will it get similar support in the first few years?
We are on a timeline to get rid of it. Maybe not absolutely immediately, but fairly quickly. I mean, I even though we're not on Steam, I look at the Steam hardware survey pretty closely, and and draw lines on various things like a lot of our UI. I'm like, all right, so what? Hey, 30% of people aren't even running at 1080p, so we're holding onto that for a long time. On the other hand, less than 2% of people are still on 32-bit OSs, so we're getting pretty close to pulling the plug on that.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, in terms of support, I would be shocked if we went live with 32-bit.
Oh no, we're not shipping with that. There will be an interim transition, but yeah. On the hardware subject, we finally got our Big Bad Threadripper 2s in the Fairfax office this week, so I'm looking forward to going back. It's kind of an interesting thing for if you're a hardware nerd. We are actually seeing like faster development performance from the 2950 with the 16 cores than the 2990 with the 32 cores, because it's like, you add more cores without adding more memory bandwidth. That doesn't necessarily help you. You can just end up bottlenecked.
Exactly.
So, pro tip if you're building a workstation, try and evaluate that really carefully before you spend the extra money on a 2990. We just bought one of each to okay, let's really see, and we'll decide what's worth it.
And so
2950 is worth it.
That's Rob and Dave
not.
are doing the testing on that. Yeah, they've been doing a lot of performance checking and testing on that, and it's been interesting.
Yeah, well, not that much. I mean, they installed it on it, and it's like, who can build the game faster?
Well, hey,
I'll race ya.
I've been watching all of the metrics they've been posting. It interests me because I'm at the point where I need to upgrade my home station, and I'm like, gosh, do I really need 32 cores? Do I really not need 32 cores? Like, these are important questions, right? Yeah, important questions.
The man with no screen name asks, assume I, jokester, and occasional fan artist have no idea how computers, code, programs, and math work. What is Coherent, and what does it do inside CU?
Okay, so we've mentioned a few times that we're using we're just using the web for our UI. Like, all the UI that draws over the game is all just like, it's literally a web page, and so it's all laid out with HTML and JavaScript. It's all same kinds of controls, entire, all the stuff that you would do with a web page. It's basically just a very interactive web page that's drawing over top of the 3D game. And so one way or another, we've been using the source to Chrome, which, Google's browser is open source, but there are several different forks of it. And Ceph is a different fork of it that connects to games in different ways. Ceph CEF is one of them. Coherent is another one, and just the transition between those is what's going to let us organize our memory a lot better and do other things. So Ceph has just not been an incredibly fun experience in terms of moving forward to later versions of it from older versions, and having something that's genuinely supported as opposed to a pure open source side project is, I think, our way forward. And also what that's going to mean is that when you open up the client, or when you open up your Windows Task Manager, you're just going to see everything packed into one client.exe, not like, not like 8 processes on the side. So,
does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
Yeah. So, how we author our UI is the same. How the client communicates with it is a little different, and
there's a little bit of difference with how the clients communicates back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah, and the Mod Squad people know all about that. They've been doing lots of work.
It's been pretty fantastic.
To just sort of like, all right, here where we pass this value, now we pass it a little different.
CSE Matt asks, for the producer, are there any particular challenges for production that arise specifically in crowdfunded games?
I've worked on 3 crowdfunded games now, and there is actually a really big difference in the approach to developments between crowdfunded and games like at like an in-house studio. One of the big things is with a crowdfunded game, more often than not, you have to have something to show the community pretty much every day from day one. You've got to be able to show progress. You've got to be able to show what you're working on. You've got to be really open and honest and very transparent about what you're doing.
Bethesda might spend 4 or 5 years working on a game, but that game will not even be announced. Like, the existence of it won't even be revealed until 6 months before it comes out. And so, I think people don't understand how, the pipeline on some of these things, how deep that pipeline can be sometimes. And, we're showing you the pipeline. And
and it's messy. At the end of the day, like, when making games, you look at studios like Bethesda, they'll have a year or 2 of planning before they really have anything to even show, before they've got a build that's made. There will have been people thinking about it for a while. You'll have things that are documented way in advance that have been vetted through multiple people for consistency. And with a crowdfunding game, you're never going to see that, right? You're going to see they're going to have to hit the ground running. You're going to have to show progress. You're going to have to show builds. You're going to have to show things that you're working on, and it's almost like doing things backwards, really.
Yeah. Show a prototype very, very early, and then figure out how to get from your prototype to your final product without actually throwing out the prototype and going dark.
Yeah, because that's the hard part, is maintaining that experience for everyone while working on something that is essentially completely different. It's like the skills. We have so much work to do there, but it's not like we're abandoning any of the work. It's just we built one use case, and now we're just fleshing that out and making sure that it works with all of our other use cases. But with another game, like a long time ago, I worked on one entry in the Fable series, and they built out everything way in advance, and we were testing things that were not even hooked up into the code in spreadsheets for valuation long before they were ever implemented by design. So it's kind of interesting how that's radically different in crowdsourced games.
Yeah, like I've done things where, here's our UI mockup, and it's just a flip book, and I'll be like, I touch this button and tap the flip book, and then we'll go to page 38 in the flip book to show what the UI looks like now.
Yeah.
We do not get to do that, plan that far in advance. So it's build a prototype, show it, let Donnie break it.
Odovic asks, we the community would like to meet our community manager. Can we get an on-screen wave?
Oh, I think so.
I guess the answer is yes.
I think you need to get in here.
Yeah.
Get in here, B-Dog.
Hey, everybody.
I can see you on this.
All right, I'm on the stream. How's it going?
So,
cheers.
breakfast with Bryan.
Yep.
Good mornings with Max.
Fun fact about Bryan, he has hundreds of these caps.
Oh, yeah.
Like, seriously, and it's always a different cap. Always, like, mint condition. Looks like it's brand new from the store. Every day it's a different cap. It blows my mind.
I like cats. What can I say? Well, cool. All right, I'm going to go and let these guys get back to the stream. Cheers.
Some people some people are really awesome people, but not necessarily camera people.
That's true. That's true. And honestly, I don't want to be one of those places that forces people to be on camera. As I think the community knows, as you guys know, I used to work at CAG. Great bunch of people, wonderful. I loved working with them. But sometimes they made people be on camera who really did not want to be on camera, and it showed because they did a lot of video content. And there's some times where there's just really awkward people who are like, I don't want to be here. I want to ever have to do that.
Look at my feet.
Yeah, I'm gonna be down here and mumble.
They're such interesting feet.
Let's see here. I'm trying to find another question.
Uh-oh.
I think Bryan broke the community by being on there.
From JB, Coherent is not based on Chromium anymore. It is now.
It's based on. It was derived from Blink and WebKit.
Well, yeah, it's WebKit based, but that's like 85% of anything that calls itself a browser includes something from WebKit.
Except Firefox. Firefox is pure.
Right. It is vastly superior. I agree with you.
Edge is too. It's just Safari and Chrome.
I think that Edge includes something from WebKit. Or is it IE like 11? Oh, I don't know. I haven't been in the browser game.
I could answer this question, but I'd get in trouble.
There you go. I don't know. I'm a Firefox guy. I actually love the Firefox Developer Edition. What is it, like Firefox Quantum or whatever they call it now? Some fancy branded name. But I love it. So it's my preferred go-to.
Strike asks, will there be a Christmas event?
Don't look at me.
In game?
I
Or am I just gonna hang? Am I just gonna hang like Christmas decorations in my beard like I did last year?
I mean, as far as community,
I think there's
events,
there's enough of a game coming together that we could throw a Christmas event in there.
Yeah, I think it's possible. I don't know if we will.
I'm not gonna promise, but the fact that you have asked this now means the conversation is started while there is still time. It won't just be like on the last day before Christmas, I just add a snow shader to everything. That happened.
I don't know. I'm not the type of person who celebrates Christmas. I would rather we had a Halloween event or like a jolly book flood event where we just have it raining books and we change everyone to be in pajamas. It would be great.
That sounds really cornery.
No, it'd be great. It'd be
books
perfect.
falling on your head.
All right. So
how quickly can we get a Halloween event? Let's talk about.
I actually think we should talk about that. I mean, we've got 3 weeks?
Yeah. 3 weeks.
We'll discuss. We'll discuss doing a holiday event.
Matt's getting the bat.
He's like, by the power of Grayskull! Oh, that's not fair. This is your Halloween event.
All right. So Sparty asks, what would be the best way to get into Coherent and UI modding?
So the best way to get into UI modding, I mean, Coherent is just a web browser. Like, we have not changed the core fact that the entire UI is a single-page web app that is overlaid onto the game. So anything you can do in JavaScript in a web page, you can do as an overlay on our game as a UI mod. So, I mean, just learning interactive web development with JavaScript, tools like React or Angular. I mean, the same. Work through the little to-do list tutorial where you make a list of things and pin your priorities, and all of those could conceivably become UI mods.
There's a lot of free resources like the W3C schools. Like the World Wide Web Consortium schools has tutorials on all of the stuff, and it's all web standard stuff. I mean, we're using HTML5 web standard stuff for basically everything. So learn that.
Yeah, we are using React. We are using GraphQL. It is absolutely standard web technology because we really, really do want it to be accessible to the people who anyone who can do web front end stuff can make a UI mod.
Yep, and just as long as it's not a dick butt, and we're good.
I have nothing more to say.
Yep.
Are you trying to get my attention, George?
Check out JB's response in the Twitch chat.
Okay, see, I can't see the Twitch chat.
Yeah, we can't see the screen.
So check out JB's response to that in the Twitch chat.
Antediluvian asks, I saw in the stretch goals for the giant races, it sort of implied that the giant races will grow. Is that still a thing that's being considered?
Yes. We promised it. We're going to do it. I have not forgotten that. I was like, as soon as he said giant races, it's like, I know what this question is.
Yeah.
But, of course, choices have consequences. Someone can build a door that's too low for you if you're a giant.
Yep. You'll be stuck outside. Won't be able to come in.
Odovic asks, did someone actually use a hammer to pin that CSE logo onto the whiteboard, or has someone in Seattle been to the gym far too much?
Oh no! It's they're little magnetic clip-ons, and so they just tack on like little magnets. They look like thumb pins, but they're actually just little magnetic.
How do they work?
With magnets?
Magnets.
Fucking magnets.
Fucking magnets. I mean, if you really need me to go into detail about how the weak, strong atomic forces and the electromagnetic force function in conjunction
Don't talk to me about no scientist.
Get into it. Baric attraction, all right, it's pretty well understood. But yeah, it's just they're little magnetic pins that work with magnets.
All right, we've gone full ICP. So next question.
Salty2 asks, Vulcan when?
There's no timetable that I can say that's not like make game features is more important.
It's something I would love to see, but it's not something that's on the schedule presently. I can say that.
Yeah. It hurts me to say that. It really hurts me to say that.
If Odovic asks, if CSE Seattle had to pick something in CU as their baby/babies, what would it be?
I can't answer that. I don't think that can be answered without causing fights. And since I don't want to be the one to start fights, I want to be the one to end fights and make people feel bad. I don't want to.
Let's see. No, I'm going to go around the room here.
No.
CJ are my children.
Oh, I was waiting for that.
So George, absolutely the client threading library parallel. That is his baby. He developed it as an external open source project, and we used it, although it's at this point I would say it's 3.0 compared to what the original open source project was. So we should be nice people and get that back out to GitHub.
At some point, eventually, after we've written some white papers on it.
Yeah, Matt's got like a little bit of all the babies. He's just got like, oh, here's a finger from this baby and a hand from this baby and the ears of this baby. He just like runs around like, yeah. Okay, what was the like newer game from the Limbo guys?
Binding of Isaac?
No.
I don't know. I can't remember.
I spoiled the end for you.
Yeah.
Darn.
It's been spoiled, so there you go.
Yeah, the horrible flesh block. They're like,
Frankenweenie?
they made the their deluxe physical edition. Oh God, is that shipped yet? I need to find out if
we need to find out if that's shipped.
Because they didn't tell anyone what was actually in the deluxe physical edition.
It makes it so much better on so many levels. What you got, Bryan?
All right, Strike JK asks, have you guys ever considered giving the characters the ability to fly or glide via pads, mounts, or spells?
I do not think that is this game at release. There may be things we do for expansions, interesting future things. It's, air superiority is such a ridiculous changer to... Aerial combat is such a ridiculous changer to battles that our goal is like, get that keep siege mechanic down where people can't fly over the walls and, focus on that and then deliver that without throwing that extreme wild card into there.
Yeah. In the class descriptions that I've seen, I haven't seen anything regarding flight, so... it's not like it's technical infeasibility, but balance and design wise.
Yeah, it requires rebalancing every class that cannot fly in order to how do you take on flyers. It requires rethinking keep sieges. It requires rethinking motion and movement. You know, whether people can or cannot get over a wall, like all the things. And it's like, you know, we're balanced. We're building this game.
Yeah.
I'd like to make that game someday, but
it could be fun. It could be a fun game.
Yeah, it's not. A lot of that's just really difficult to make a balanced PvP experience where, you know,
either everyone has to have it or no one can have it.
Right.
Really, I mean, that's what it boils down to.
1 second.
Okay, we believe in you, Bryan. I don't know. I had a dream the other night, and in that dream, it was an MMO game where you play a dragon, and it was like the camera was hooked like above the dragon's head, but you could like see the dragon's head, and you like had to move around. You could like move around and like look at your body and stuff, and everybody else was a dragon in it, and you had to like fly around and do dragony things. I guess that sounded like a fun game, and I think in like 15 years we should make that game. It'd be great.
Yeah. Could be.
Necron asks, will there be dragons flying around to interfere with PvP combat / sieges?
That's not really in the core design. I mean, I've said a lot of times, like, my ideal place for where we go after launch is to build out the world, to essentially make the world a fourth faction that is dynamic. I want orcs have been breeding in the mountains, and now they are rushing down. Make it. I don't just mean like a public event where oh, here's 20 orcs right here. I mean like make it fundamentally like the world is changing, like weather. Like these things are weather, and dragons are definitely part of that. Where I would like to see it go, but it's not part of the 1.0 design.
Yeah.
5-minute warning, folks. 5-minute warning. Scorpo67 asks, at one point Lutrapans were supposedly going to be good climbers. Is this still the case? Will they climb walls or trees?
If MJ said it, yeah.
Yeah, if MJ said it.
We'll get that back in there.
That's not technically that super challenging from a standpoint of what we've got in terms of how our movement works. It's just, my biggest concern then would be animation. Climbing animations for everybody. I can't
forever.
I can't imagine that Tyler's going to look at a simple like 2-bit climbing animation like this and think that looks good, and then show that to MJ. And I doubt MJ would be like, yeah, that looks great. Let's go with that. No, we would need to put some spit shine on it, I think. But if it was said, then yeah, we're going to keep those promises.
CSE Tim asks, who would win in a mosh pit?
I don't think that's how mosh pits work. Yeah. But
the people who think it's really about injuring the other fans are not fans.
Yeah, they're just jerks.
I feel incredibly safe, like up front at a grindcore show. Anyone goes down, other people are gonna pull them up.
Right.
The worst injury I have ever had in a mosh pit was like this random local show with kind of a hard rock band called Cab Ride Home, whose singer is now a U.S. representative.
Amazing.
And yeah, you might know her for other reasons besides Cab Ride Home, though. But there were just like these two 19-year-old girls who were like, it's a metal show! We're gonna go nuts! And one of them just threw an elbow straight into my neck, and there's only 4 people on the floor, so I just go down hard on the concrete. I was just I am out of here. I'm going across town, and I'm gonna see Pig Destroyer, and there's gonna be broken glass and spilled beer all over the floor, and it's gonna be safe.
I'm not a live show person. I think I've only been in a mosh pit once, and I think that was at a Guar show, and that was fine. That was a blast. We ended up having a bunch of girls who were crowd riding back and forth from one side to the other. It was hilarious.
Oh yeah, Guar is okay. Pro tip: if you've never gone to see a Guar show, and you wear contacts, take out your contacts or just like, wear some goggles, because like I came back from my first Guar show and I took out my contacts and my contacts were just like stained red permanently from all the fake blood that I had been sprayed with.
I was drenched. It was great. It was pretty amazing.
All right, I think that's a good question to end on.
Yeah, I think so. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, to Odorous.
Thanks, all.